Alex, if I can, in fact, bring you in on this. This, of course, is a story that you've been tracking for us for the last several weeks. The fact that Liz Truss did not enjoy the support of her entire party leadership, is this something that started after the disastrous mini-budget, or were there question marks about her style of leadership even before she came up with that mini-budget?
I believe that whoever would have won that hustings, whether it be Rishi Sunak or Liz Truss, there was always going to be some turmoil within the party, because ultimately they were already broken apart by the fact that Boris Johnson was ousted, someone that the UK public had put in that position. So trying to vie off between all of those that came forward and then down to the final two, there was many people on both sides who didn't want either of those candidates to be in place. And then when Liz was suggesting throughout her hustings that she wanted this growth, but she wasn't putting any clarity in what exactly were these policies, how much was she going to be spending, how much was she going to be borrowing, there was no real answers there either. So there seems to be, right from the beginning, that this wasn't always going to be a smooth ride. And there's still talk now of Boris Johnson even potentially coming back and taking on that leadership mantle again, although that is quite unlikely. Although Rishi Sunak has said that he is very interested in the role. So it'd be interesting to see if he gets put forward. But then again, there's always going to be those backbenchers who really aren't happy with the way that this is all played out. And instead of coming together and unifying and figuring out how can we move forward, they are going to be still on the backbenches, probably still picking apart whoever comes in next and whatever cabinet we're going to see. And who stays and who goes is something that we will be definitely keeping a really keen eye on, because obviously Liz Truss has been in Parliament now for 12 odd years. So what's going to happen with her? She's no longer the Prime Minister, but she is likely to remain as an MP for her constituency.
Absolutely, indeed. That of course, is something that Liz Truss and also as to how she's fared as the Prime Minister is something that's going to be debated. But this is, of course, a rather not an enviable sort of a position that Liz Truss has written for herself in the footnotes of British history as being the person who served as the Prime Minister for about 45 days at 10 Downing Street. But the task ahead for whoever is the next person who now takes charge of the Tory party is not going to be an easy one. Because the Tory party is at this point of time, it appears, is a house divided. And Mr. Andrew Whitehead, this is an extremely hard time for the Conservative Party. They've always said that they represent stability, that they would have, through these difficult times that Britain is now going through with the financial crisis, with the war in Ukraine, the Tory party was pitching itself as the party that would, of course, take Britain through these crises in a very stable manner. But the fact is the Tory party itself is a house divided. Do you see anyone amongst the many people who are likely to throw their hat in for the next leader, to be the next leader of the Tory party, who can actually bring in certain stability to the Tory party to begin with, and also to unite the many factions that now presently exist within the Tory party?
I think it's difficult to see somebody who can perform all those roles. I think it depends which one the Conservative parties want most. So Rishi Sunak is very strong on the economy. He was the runner-up when Liz Truss won the leadership contest. But he's also a divisive figure because people see him as being disloyal to Boris Johnson, the person who wielded the political dagger which ended Boris Johnson's own premiership. And there is a group within the Conservative Party which remains very loyal to Boris Johnson. They could go for somebody like Ben Wallace, the Defence Secretary, even though he said he doesn't want the job, but nevertheless he could be press-ganged into it. He's lower profile, a very calming figure. He might do quite well in helping the Conservative Party regroup and being a stable figure, consensual figure. But he probably won't be a great campaigner, so I don't think his chances for the next general election would be all that high. There'll be other people, I'm sure, who will express an interest. But what surprises me is I thought if Liz Truss was going to resign, that the Conservative Party would have another leader in waiting. There would be what people here are calling a coronation, not a leadership contest, but somebody who would be brought forward as the unanimous choice of the party, even if some party MPs were biting their lips. But that doesn't seem to be the case. And apart from Jeremy Hunt, who's ruled himself out, we haven't yet heard definitively from other frontrunners about whether they're intending to put their names forward. But they'll have to decide very quickly.
And Mr. Whitehead, considering that you've followed British politics for so long, do you think Liz Truss would have consulted her inner circle before she made this big announcement that she was stepping down simply because she would not be in a position to deliver on the mandate? Or do you think she was so isolated herself within the Tory party that this is the decision that she's made virtually on her own?
Well, we do know that late this morning, so an hour or two ago, she had meetings with the Conservative Party chairman, with a person, Sir Graham Brady, who represents Conservative backbench members of Parliament, and with her Deputy Prime Minister, Therese Coffey, who is a very close political ally. So I'm sure that she's been taking advice from some of her allies. She's not just done this as a sort of wounded leader who's gone off in a sulk. But nevertheless, I am slightly surprised that perhaps she didn't mediate the message in some way and says that I will be intending to stand down once a new leader is in place. I mean, she's said that she will stay on until a new leader is in place, but there is the uncertainty now, which is clearly slightly unsettling the markets, that we don't know who the next Prime Minister is going to be, and we are not absolutely sure who the range of candidates are and when we will know. So in terms of certainty, we've got none at all. Absolutely
indeed. In terms of certainty, we've got none at all. Now, this of course, is a crucial moment for people in Britain. They're staring at a very difficult and a long and a bitter winter ahead. The financial crisis is, of course, getting worse because of the cost of living is going through the roof. And in the midst of this, the Tory party leadership is in a complete meltdown. So let's listen in one more time to what Liz Truss had to say when she stepped up to the podium in front of the 10 Downing Street just about an hour back. Listen in.
I came into office at a time of great economic and international instability. Families and businesses were worried about how to pay their bills. Putin's illegal war in Ukraine threatens the security of our whole continent, and our country has been held back for too long by low economic growth. I was elected by the Conservative Party with a mandate to change this. We delivered on energy bills and on cutting national insurance. And we set out a vision for a low-tax, high-growth economy that would take advantage of the freedoms of Brexit. I recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party. This morning I met the chairman of the 1922 committee, Sir Graham Brady. We've agreed that there will be a leadership election to be completed within the next week. This will ensure that we remain on a path to deliver our fiscal plans and maintain our country's economic stability and national security. I will remain as Prime Minister until a successor has been chosen. Thank you.
All right, so that was Liz Truss there making that big announcement that she's indeed stepping down from being the Prime Minister of Britain and also from the leadership of the Tory party. And there are also some international reactions that have just come in, where we've heard from Emmanuel Macron, the French president, where he said that it is important that above all that Britain gets some level of political stability. That is what he said. And also he went on to state, and I quote him here, on a personal level, I'm always sad to see a colleague go. That, of course, is the reaction by the French President Emmanuel Macron. He was, of course, speaking in Brussels when he arrived at the European Union summit a little while back. This is a critical and a crucial moment in British politics. The Tories, the Conservative Party that has been in power for 12 long years, at this point of time, its leadership is in complete disarray. No one knows at this point of time as to who will succeed Liz Truss. There will be another leadership contest. It is not expected to be as long as what it was once Boris Johnson, of course, decided to step down. But Jeremy Hunt has ruled himself out. And he was seen as, some would say, the front runner in case Liz Truss was to go. But now he said that he does not want to be the leader of the Tory party, nor does he want to be the Prime Minister of Britain in this extremely challenging time. And Alex, if I can bring you in on this for the last word. This is a serious crisis that the Tories were simply not planning for, because once Boris Johnson, of course, decided to step down. Liz Truss was elected through this very long and difficult process. But now, even Liz Truss has announced her resignation. So where does this leave the future of the Tory party in the near term?
Well, while you were talking there was some actual news from Sir Graham Brady. He actually gave a statement in Westminster to discuss exactly what's going to be happening with the new potential Prime Minister. So he said that we're going to see a new PM before the 31st of October. He said he's the chairman of the Tory 1922 committee, and he said that he's expecting the new leader to be in place by next Friday. He said in his statement that I've spoken to the party chairman, Jake Berry, and he's confirmed that it will be possible to conduct a ballot and conclude a leadership election by Friday 28th of October. So there should be that new leader in place by October 31st. He also said there that this isn't the situation that he'd hoped to see. He said that there was no more detail and that they will be offering some greater clarity going forward. He said that they said, asked if there'll be two candidates. He says if there's only one candidate, it's only one. So at the moment, he doesn't actually give any extra information to know what exactly who's going to be put themselves forward and how many candidates there'll be. But there we go. We have a decisive time frame of when we're going to see this new Prime Minister put into place. So we will have one before the OBR forecast on the 31st of October.
I think that at least gives us some clarity in terms of when the next leader of the Tory party will be elected and when Britain, of course, gets its next Prime Minister. 31st of October is said to be the big date, and it remains to be seen as to who, of course, now emerges to succeed to this extremely difficult job of being the Prime Minister of Britain at 10 Downing Street, succeeding Liz Truss. And with that, we've completely run out of time. Thank you very much indeed to Alex Isaac, who joined us from London, and also to Mr. Andrew Whitehead, who also joined us from London. This, of course, is the big developing story that is unfolding in Britain, where the Prime Minister, Liz Truss, 45 days after she took charge as the leader of the Tory party and also the Prime Minister at 10 Downing Street, has just announced her resignation, and it is not going to be easy for whoever succeeds her to steer Britain through this extremely harsh and cold winter, which is enough. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.